Hello there, Alan Plum here again with a little more from Shed Engineering. First of all, your local news for the Wye Valley. Dr Broadbent has taken delivery of a new Morris Minor in aqua green. Dr Broadbent said it will allow him to get straight out on cases, and if there is any minor emergencies, he could take them straight to the cottage hospital. Work on the new water pipeline that local residents and pressure groups have been so up in arms about has been progressing, and large sections have now been backfilled, although Coombs Road remains closed to traffic. Frank Lomas, the coal merchant operating from the sidings and yard to the rear of Bakewell Station, has also taken delivery of a new vehicle this week, a Fordson tractor. Mr Lomas said this will aid the movement of wagons up and down the yard, and he has approached several blacksmiths to come up with a design for a mechanical shovel to be fitted to the front of the tractor. This would also aid unloading and loading. Now, we haven't got time for the full gardening programme this week, but sit back and relax, and Alan will give you a few tips on how to keep your gravelled area clear of weeds. Keeping a gravelled area free from weeds is relatively simple. You walk across the gravel until you find a weed, and then you grasp hold of it and pull it out. You then continue until you find another weed. You grasp hold of that one and pull it out, shaking off any soil and collecting them together. Now, many people find this quite laborious, but think of it as harvesting. Think of the weeds as being a resource, something that can be recycled. Yes, that's it. Let's recycle these weeds. Once you learn how to recycle such weeds and turn weeds into trees, then you will look on them in a completely different manner. And before long, you will look on every weed as a tree waiting to be discovered. Once you've collected your weeds together, you need to put them into a suitable container, perhaps a little bit wider than the one I've got here, and the solution I've got is roughly 50-50 water and PVA glue. Obviously, weeds or plant roots are designed to take up water, and so they'll absorb quite a lot of the PVA glue. Take them out onto some kitchen towel, and then at this stage the roots are still very flexible, and you can spread them out and arrange them the best you can, and then it's a matter of drying them out. And here I'm just pegging them to the washing line and leaving them in the sun to dry. And this is another batch. On this occasion I've just sellotaped them to a piece of 2B1 and left them to dry just there. Right, to make the tree armatures out of dried weeds, then all I'm using is a couple of inches of green florist's wire, and I'm using Gorilla Glue. I don't know whether you've seen it or come across it. I'm using Gorilla Glue. It says that you've got to dampen the surface, so I've very often just put a little dab of spit on the trunks that I'm going to glue together. So I'll just clean them off, just wet my fingers, give them a little roll. The Gorilla Glue actually expands a little bit like expanding foam, and it says that you've got to clamp items together, because it does, as I say, it does actually expand. Here I've got a needle and thread, so I'm just going to wrap some thread around the florist wire. I'm going to take a sprig of dead weed. I'm just going to bind that onto there. I shall just add a little bit more glue up the stem, and then introduce another one to sit alongside that. You can just bind that together. Another little dab of Gorilla Glue, and onto the next branch that you're going to introduce. You can pop that in there, and then tie that one in as well. Ideally you want to be proficient in tying fish flies or something like that, then you'll find this very easy. And that can be then tied in. Sorry if I'm going out of shot. It's difficult to watch the camera and watch what you're doing at the same time. if you then just run some Gorilla Glue on the trunk like that, it will actually swell up. Obviously that can be slightly adjusted until you've got something that's looking quite reasonable. I then take some of this polyfiber strands. This is light green, and I tease out some of that, and you need to get that. Let me move that for a minute. Try and keep it very, very thin, but work it round something like that. I then give it a liberal coating of card glue. Card glue is very like PVA, but it goes very, very sticky much quicker. I then give that a this mixes all the fibres up, and you can actually wrap the fibres around some of the branches. What's this? This is Woodland Scenics, Countryside Scenics, sorry, light meadow green scatter. So you can dip it into sprinkle a bit more of that over the top. I'll just apply a few more dabs of glue here and there. So you can give that as many coats as you want until you build the colour up, and then obviously you can trim off these little spiky bits that are sticking out. I just need to wrap a little bit more twine around there, and Bob's your uncle. You've got something that's looking half reasonable, and you can actually see through the tree. And obviously with the weeds you can build them up to different sizes, so whether you're doing N scale, then obviously that by itself would make something like an apple tree, something like that, or a little garden tree, or you can add others to it. And if I just show you, if I just try and show you that, you can see on the trunk how the Gorilla Glue has started to swell up and fill in between the different branches. Probably takes about half an hour or something like that for it to actually start swelling up. So I hope that's of interest. Something else you can do with the weeds that you pull out of your gravel on your front drive. I would just like to remind everybody, especially everyone working in double O or larger, just how small N gauge is. I think it's easy to forget just how small a scale it actually is. Very, very tiny. Very, very difficult to work with at times. But there we go. I wonder how many of you have seen the Faller or Faller road system. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, the German road system for model railways. Absolutely incredible, although I've got reservations on how realistic it is because of how severe the slow down and stop at junctions, etc. But it'd be fantastic to have something like that for N scale, especially because I'm so limited on what I can actually include in the model, because I'm trying to recreate a real location. So it would have been nice to represent some of the shunting and some of the unloading operations where coal was delivered to the sidings, and then perhaps the coal lorries leaving the sidings, taking it out by road. But obviously in N scale that's completely impossible. The Faller road system is already hugely expensive. Some of the vehicles are costing well over £100, so to have a system miniaturized into N gauge, it would be astronomical in price. So even though what I wanted to represent and portray is relatively simple or mundane, there is little chance of breathing life into such tiny little models. As I have said before, if I'm modelling Bakewell, which is a real location, then I can't have rivers and lakes or canals, viaducts or suspension bridges. I can't model churches with weddings or villages with Morris men. Hence why I was looking for something else, even if it was relatively simple. And it's often the simple things that get overlooked. Often it's the simple everyday things of railway life that get forgotten about. I bet thousands of layouts have actually got coal yards and coal bunkers, etc. But have you ever stopped to think, how was the coal unloaded and moved on at thousands of small rural towns? In actual fact, it was mainly done manually. The horses and carts, and later on the lorries, would pull up right alongside the railway wagons, and the coal was then handballed out onto them. Coal back then, before mechanisation, was always in quite big lumps, hence why it didn't always just cascade out of the wagon door when it was opened. And it was often broken up on the back of the cart or the lorry, and then bagged and weighed, and then as room was made on the wagon, the breaking up and weighing continued there. And so this is just a simple mock-up which is trying to represent how the coal merchant would have moved the coal wagons. You might think the shunting loco would have moved the empties, etc., but more often than not the merchant would get whatever amount of wagons he had ordered shunted into his yard or sidings, and that was it. The loco would only return to collect the empties on the next delivery. So crowbars, horses or tractors would have moved any of the wagons within the merchant's sidings or yard. It's just an everyday simple occurrence, but hardly ever represented or modelled, and in N-Gauge, unfortunately, almost impossible to breathe life into. Is this the first time life has been breathed into true N-gauge? This is a 1/148th scale model Fordson tractor by Oxford Diecast, doing a reverse 2-point turn and pulling 2 N-gauge coal wagons. This is not, I repeat, this is not the Faller or Fowler road system. This is my completely new UR VTS, under road vehicle transit system. Has Shed Engineering taken N-gauge modelling to the next level? Sorry there hasn't been a lot of progress on the actual layout. I've been busy with other things. Many thanks to all the new subscribers. Hope you found something interesting, and thank you for watching.